A while an idea comes along that is so genuinely good that it really deserves a follow-up. That's what happened after the Maine Bicentennial Community Cookbook came out in 2020. Now there is Volume 2, the Maine Community Cookbook, 200 more recipes celebrating home cooking in the Pine Tree State. With us here on 207 are the editors, Carl Schatz and Margaret Hathaway, and Don Lindgren, who wrote the foreword to this book. Thanks all for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So just to bring people up to speed who may not have been familiar with the first book, what you did is you sent out the call to say, we want recipes. We want Maine recipes. We want recipes that are rooted in family and community. You got a terrific response first time around, more than you expected. How did you make out this time around?
Yeah, so the response was so great the first time around, and then what we discovered is once the first book came out that there were a lot of families that got the first book that said, oh, I wish I'd known about this. I would have loved to submit our family story and our family recipe. And so we got so many, we heard that from so many different people that we decided to get the gang back together.
One nice thing that happened this time around is you got a lot more recipe submissions from kids, Margaret.
Yeah, it's true. The first book, we got a lot of recipes from grandparents talking about what they cooked with their grandchildren. And this time we actually got a number of recipes from teenagers and a 12-year-old boy whose lobster mac and cheese recipe is delicious. But a lot of kids talking about what they make with their grandparents and how that connects them. And it was just beautiful.
Yeah, and we got a couple recipes actually from the Nokomis High School Cooking Club, and that they meet every week and they all cook together, and they gave us a couple recipes too, which was great.
Don, what is absolutely part of the DNA of this book is the history that came before, particularly community cookbooks from Maine, put out by church groups, PTAs, on, that cover decades of the history. They really are part of the spirit of this, aren't they?
They are. The whole form of the book, the community cookbook, it's an old form, and it's the very first Maine cookbook was a community cookbook, and now we continue that. The neat thing is that in the beginning we saw these church groups, like you said, Grange halls, library auxiliaries, hospital auxiliaries. Now we see, and by now I mean the last 30 years or 40 years, we see an entirely different group of community organizations. And the books themselves and then the types of people who contributed to this book gave us a look into the very different types of social groups that people form in the state of Maine, and the way they get together, the types of things that bind them, which could be as different as being like the Hockey Moms Club to caged bird fanciers, which is a really, really small group. But
That's a niche.
They put out a book, and groups of people who are unified by by being motorcycle riders or fans of a local high school or something.
One of the things I love about the book is it is a time machine. You just leaf through it and you see the recipe titles. Pork cake. That you just know that's nothing recent. Aunt Weeze's homemade donuts. You know that there's a family story that is rich. Raw onion sandwich. That one absolutely got to me, and it came from, I think, a community cookbook from, I want to say, 1890 or something like that. That's it's just fascinating. And then there's one story in particular about aspic salad. Fill me in on that.
Margaret, you want to?
Well, so there's a recipe that came about aspic salad, and the woman who submitted it married into a family where the aspic salad is a big tradition at Thanksgiving. And it took her, I think, 15 years of being in the family to even taste it, because aspic salad is essentially Jell-O and tomato juice mixed together. But the family has a tradition of aspic salad stories where the food itself is not really what's important. It's that they sit around the aspic salad and tell stories. And that's kind of what these books are. It's a collection of stories.
You've got a quotation at the beginning of the book that says, no one who cooks, cooks alone, I think is the gist of it.
Lori Colwin,
And that's what this is about. You want, I mean, this isn't meant for one solitary cook to put down on the counter in the kitchen and make a dish. This is all about family and community.
Yeah, it is. And we've heard from a lot of people actually, said they bought the book and how much they love the book. And I always ask them, oh, what recipes have you cooked from it? And they said, oh, I actually haven't cooked any recipes from it yet. I just love reading the stories. And that's, I think, one of the really special things about these cookbooks is that as much as we love the recipes and we love the food, it's really about the people and the stories behind the recipes.
Don, you got a favorite recipe that you've made?
There's a recipe that I really liked that's rhubarb. It's a rhubarb pineapple chutney or marmalade. And I like it because I'm really interested in recipes where there are local ingredients and then there are these ingredients that come from afar. And when you see something like that together, it's these, it's different tastes together, but it also makes you think about how did these ingredients come to the same place at the same time.
And I just want to mention as we end that it also reflects the best of the old traditional Maine, things like trout chowder, but also new Maine, what immigrants have brought to the state, Ukrainian borscht. And that's a timely one right there. So it's a really fascinating piece of work, and it's great to read, even if you don't cook like me. It's a lot of fun. The Maine Community Cookbook Volume 2. Thank you all for coming in. Really appreciate it. We've got more information on this book on our website. Just head to the 207 section of newscentermaine.com or to our app. And we're going to be back right after this.